This week's episode is sponsored by Patreon supporter Cian Carlisle, who had an unusual request: a look at the Transformers franchise's long history of recoloring Bumblebee to create new characters. To do that, we need to go back to how it all started with the basics on Minibots. Minibots is one of several names used to refer to a range of small Autobot toys released in the first few years of the original Transformers line. Simple, low-cost figures that sold for $3 each and stood around 3 inches tall. The story of these toys began with the Micro Robot Cars, a collection of 7 figures released by Japanese toy company Takara in their Micro Change line in 1983. Takara designed 3 of the 7, a Mazda Familia 1500 XG, a Volkswagen Beetle, and a Porsche 924 Turbo. Each was available in 3 color variants, yellow, red, and blue, and all 3 were variations on the same basic design, each one transforming the same way into super deformed vehicle modes that were designed to look like toys from Takara's line of tiny, cute model cars, choro-q. The other 4 figures, a Pontiac Firebird, a truck, a 4-wheel drive pickup, and an off-road SUV, were apparently designs acquired from the defunct American toy company Knickerbocker and had been created for their cancelled toy line, Mysterians. The Micro Robot Cars were imported by Hasbro and released as part of the first year of the Transformers toy line in 1984 as the Autobot Mini Cars. The Volkswagen became the cheerful spy, Bumblebee, while the Porsche became the overeager warrior, Cliffjumper, who were each available in both red and yellow variants. Though pretty much all media and marketing would consistently depict Bumblebee as the yellow one and Cliffjumper as red, their shared colours and identical transformations made it easy to confuse one for the other. Meanwhile, the Firebird became Windcharger, the truck, Huffer, the 4-wheel drive, Gears, and the SUV, Brawn. The Mazda was never officially sold as part of Transformers, but for reasons that have never definitively been explained, a small run of yellow Mazda figures was erroneously released in Cliffjumper packaging in late 1984. The toy's similarity to Bumblebee and Cliffjumper led to fans naming this rare release Bumper, and 2 decades later, this character would eventually be officially incorporated into the Transformers universe. Check out the basics on Bumper to learn more. In 1985, the minicar assortment was renamed the Autobot Mini Vehicles, as it expanded beyond cars and trucks with the addition of 5 new toys: the Tank, Warpath, Flying Saucer Cosmos, Dune Buggy Beachcomber, A-10 Thunderbolt Powerglide, and Hovercraft Sea Spray. These were some of the first brand new Transformers figures that hadn't previously been released as part of a Japanese series, and it's generally thought that they were unproduced micro-change designs. One further entirely new mini-vehicle was added to the assortment in 1986, Wheelie, a Cybertronian car designed for the Transformers the movie. Also this year, all of the 1984 mini-vehicles other than Bumblebee were discontinued, and the toys were retooled, recolored, and re-released as new characters. Huffer's toy was altered to create Pipes, Brawn became Outback, Gears became Swerve, Windcharger became Tailgate, and most importantly for this video, Cliffjumper became Hubcap. As a new 4th take on the Takara Micro Robot Car design, Hubcap was differentiated from Cliffjumper by a new head and an altered spoiler, but he was coloured yellow again, which didn't exactly help to distinguish him from the other 3 yellow figures that shared his basic design. Also during 1985 and 86, the original 1984 mini-vehicles were licensed by various Latin American toy companies and released in their countries in an array of unique and different colours. Now there are so many of these guys I could do a whole separate video about them, but as far as this episode goes, the most notable were those released by Brazilian company Estrela, who included the Mazda in their line instead of Huffer. Estrela released the minicars in 4 different colour schemes each, split across 2 waves. One wave that presented them as Autobots, and a second that rebranded them as new characters belonging to new Estrela original factions. Bumblebee, Cliffjumper, and the Mazda became the heroic Optimus, Volks, Carrera, and Sedan, while Gears, Brawn, and Windcharger became the evil Malignus, Pickup, Jeepy, and Camaro. The mini-vehicle assortment was finally discontinued in 1987, and replaced for that year by the Throttlebots, 6 small Autobots with pull-back motors. Though entirely new, these toys continued the spirit of the Takara micro-robot car design, all transforming similar to the way it did into chubby little cars and trucks. But some of the mini-vehicles would return in 1993's Generation 2, when Bumblebee, Beachcomber, Seaspray, and Hubcap were re-released with new metallic paint jobs. As Transformers has grown in the 21st century, the Minibots have remained popular characters, who have frequently been revisited and reimagined for new series, leading to many new toys of them, some small scale like the original figures, others at a larger size. These new figures have generally been retooled and recolored the same way the originals were. A new toy of Brawn will be used to create a new Outback, a new Huffer becomes a new Pipes, and so on. And of course, the preeminent example of this is Bumblebee and Cliffjumper, inspired by the shared design of their original toys. When new Bumblebee figures are released, they're often recolored to create new versions of Cliffjumper. And with Bumblebee having become one of the franchise's biggest characters, that's meant there have been a lot of Cliffjumpers. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for their lesser-known mold mates, Hubcap and Bumper. Hubcap has received only one new modern figure in the Generation Selects line in 2020, while Bumper has still never had an official Transformers toy. Though a Bumblebee based on Bumper's Mazda form was released in the buzzworthy Bumblebee line in 2021. But building on the precedent established by these 4 classic toys and characters, the story of this shared design doesn't end here. In 2001, the original Bumblebee and Cliffjumper toys were reissued as keychains. Then, in 2002, official convention BotCon offered recolors of these keychains as new characters. Bumblebee in blue as alien culture expert Glyph, and Cliffjumper in green as her devoted bodyguard Tapout. This pair have reappeared in a handful of subsequent stories, including a 2020 Valentine's Day special from IDW Publishing, but to date, no further toys of them have been produced. In 2004, Takara reissued a set of mini-vehicle toys that included a retooled Bumblebee with a new head based on his appearance in the original Transformers cartoon. Later in the year, online retailer eHobby offered a recolored version of the set that reimagined the Minibots as characters from Transformers' rival franchise, GoBots. Bumblebee, recolored in white, became the evil renegade, Bugbite. Bugbite has become one of the more notable new recurring Bumblebee recolors, with several new toys and media appearances in the years since his introduction, including roles in the War for Cybertron and Cyberverse cartoons. The eHobby set would also inspire stories from the Transformers Collectors Club to introduce several more GoBot-themed mini-vehicle characters, including Autobot Medic Rest-Q, a white recolor of Hubcap, based on an unused prototype coloration for the original Hubcap toy. And then there's the series that inspired Kian's request for this episode, Transformers Animated. This cartoon featured a huge array of bots sharing Bumblebee's design, drawn from all over Transformers history, including those already established as sharing his body type, like Cliffjumper, Hubcap, Bumper, Glyph, Tapout, and even the Estrella recolors Volks, Carrera, and Sedan. Pre-existing characters who were redesigned to be Bumblebee retools for this series, like First Aid, Siren, and the Throttlebots Chase, Freeway, and Searchlight, and even brand new characters like Furao, whose head design was based directly on the original Bumblebee toy. The most significant of all of them, though, was Wasp, Bumblebee's arrogant rival from his boot camp days, who once exploited their physical similarity to impersonate Bee, and was later mutated into the Predacon Waspinator. Of these many bots, only Cliffjumper got an animated toy. A Wasp figure was planned, but never released due to the series cancellation. That said, Animated's idea of Chase as a Bumblebee recolor would be brought to life in toy form in another series, 2016's Titans Return. Even the live-action film series has gotten in on the fun. 2011's Dark of the Moon had Decepticon Laserbeak disguise himself by shape-shifting into a pink Bumblebee, an idea that's been immortalised in toy form more than once. While 2014's Age of Extinction introduced Bumblebee's evil twin, Stinger. Not literally a recolor of Bumblebee, but a man-made robot designed to look like an improved, upgraded version of him. Now, these are just the big examples. There are other one-off instances of Bumblebee toys being used as a basis for new versions of pre-existing characters like Nightbeat and Hotshot, but those are more random cases that haven't become recurring patterns and don't have any story behind them. Yet, you never know when any of them might be revisited and made into a regular part of the ever-growing hive of Bee recolors. Because as long as he continues to be the poster boy of the entire franchise, the Transformers universe will no doubt be swarming with recolors of Bumblebee for years to come. And those are the basics on Bumblebee recolors. Thanks to Kian for sponsoring this episode. Which character or color scheme is your favourite? Which series did it best? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time for more history and lore from the world of the Transformers.